Welcome to another edition of Grace Under Pressure, where my guest today is Mahesh Thakur. I'll tell you all about Mahesh in just a moment. Grace Under Pressure is that show that deals with too often dismissed as the soft stuff, the caring, the commitment we exert for others. But when you exert it from a leadership standpoint, as you will definitely discover that Mahesh is, you do it with a singular purpose of bringing people together for common cause. Welcome, Mahesh Thakur.
Thank you, John. Very excited to be you here today.
Good. I am so looking forward to our conversation, but I want to tell people all about you. Mahesh Thakur is an AI expert who helps businesses and leaders successfully deliver their AI-enabled strategies. His professional work is with Fortune 500 companies you may have heard of, like Microsoft, Intuit, Amazon, and Intel. He's examined how artificial intelligence and machine learning can improve the relevance of search and, notably for Bing, over 1.3 billion searches. Mahesh is the former CEO of Photo Weaver and a board member on other organizations. I like this line about him, and I know other people agree with me. And it says, Mahesh elevates the leaders in an organization to enable them and their direct reports to do their best. Why? Because he creates conditions for them to succeed. And like me, Mahesh is a member of 100 Coaches, which was founded by Marshall Goldsmith. Welcome, Mahesh Thakur.
Thank you, John. It is such a pleasure.
Great. And we're going to have a great conversation because you and I have chatted offline about AI, and you're helping me learn it and do it. So this will be fun. So why, first of all, I'm just going to ask you, why are we afraid of artificial intelligence, AI? What's your perspective?
We are afraid because it's a new thing, and unfortunately, the disadvantage first make the headlines usually because that's what catches the eye and that's what gets more attention. So there is this lot of hype about AI will replace humans, and you know how actually back to the late 90s, I was a software engineer. I began writing software for internet banks, and during that time, the fear was internet banking would take away banking. It will eat up banking. No physical location. I'm talking 1999. This is 2023 and it's still not taken away any banking. There's still people in the banks and there are banks, except that the teller, at the time, if I were to go back in time and tell the teller, I would ask them to upgrade their skill set so that down the road they can transition from just being a teller to being a financial advisor. And that's the era we are in now. AI is not here to eat up jobs. It is not here to destroy humans. It is here to be a companion for anybody who is ready. It could be the banker, it could be the insurance agent, it could be the marketer, it could be the CEO. AI is here as a companion. And what is actually true is that AI is not here to replace humans, but the humans who use AI will replace the ones who don't. That part.
Great. That's an exciting. I like that story, and it's reassuring for folks like me. Anyway, what is generative AI, and why is that the big game changer, Mahesh?
What is generative AI? Let's go back to AI, and then I'll come to generative AI. Back to my Microsoft days or Bing search. So Microsoft search is like a gold mine. It is important for so many things that Microsoft or any company does. In 2000, 2001, 2005, it was all Google dominated the search space. Yahoo was number 2. Microsoft was nowhere in the running. And so Microsoft decided to get in that space and compete in a big way. And as you can go back and see, search is actually the biggest space, one of the biggest organized and managed systems for large scale AI, because now you're talking hundreds or even thousands of machine learning models. Now, what is machine learning? Machine learning is where learning happens through data. So let's say if John went in and did a search, For John, what's your favorite line?
My favorite actor is, I'll just say, Paul Giamatti, a fellow Italian American.
Right. And typically when you do online shopping, what do you like to buy?
Oh, I buy everything. I mean, golf equipment. I'll do that. So
There you go. So now AI, or rather machine learning, is starting to learn about your favorite actor, the fact that you like, and what's your price point, and so much more. So that's where machine learning comes in. And that's how search got better for John and for everybody else who used search. So that is as far as AI. You could think about AI. You know how Amazon shows you people who bought this also bought this. That's AI. Now, where generative AI comes in is that it starts to generate things, create things, and mimic human beings. So now generative AI can produce documents like human, images like humans do, videos like humans do, audios, or even sing songs like humans. It can even write code like engineers do. 33% of all code could be written or is being written already by AI. So that's where generative, the fact that the AI has power to generate, makes it generative AI. So it's way beyond what AI could do. It's now mimicking humans.
okay, that's exciting. Mahesh, I'm going to ask you to move a little bit closer to the microphone here. So good. Okay. So apologize for any technical glitches, but hey, we're in a world of technology. so,
Yeah.
so, okay. So generative is basically, it's acting like a kind of brain. Am I correct in that? So
Generative is mimicking humans. It starts to first observe. I mean, it has data. I mean, it is already AI, right? It's already doing what a search engine would do, what a recommendation engine on Amazon would do. But now it has the power to generate. And it does that by mimicking what a human would do in that situation. And first, it gets trained, and you could teach it, like Microsoft spent years with OpenAI to teach what ChatGPT is. But has it learned yet? No. It's like a 7 or 8 year old kid, and it's growing exponentially. It's growing fast. Now, if you
right.
want to learn specifics about legal systems, then you got to teach it. If you wanted to learn specifics about a government, you got to teach it. So that's how it is. It is there to assist you, and it is there to help you do your task better.
Okay. Well, that's a good point, and I think I know the answer, but I'd like you to tell me, what does it mean to teach within a sphere, be it legal or what you were talking about? What does that mean? What does that require, Mahesh?
So once again, it depends on the task at hand. So let's just say I'm going to talk about a system called Laxis. Now, what Laxis does, what it could do is it could help a lawyer, or it could help anybody who is in a meeting take notes, convert those notes into summaries, convert or create action items, and even flag people associated with those action items. So now, if you have somebody who's charging you an arm and a leg, or even a law firm which looks to become more efficient, they could use Laxis, and they could become very much more efficient by using that technology and improve their profit margin, lower their cost. So that's one example of using Laxis. The other example I would use is, let's take an educational system, and you're trying to teach the teachers or train the trainers. You can actually have a lot of curriculum out there which could help the teachers. And if you have a lot of domain information, which means, let's just assume you had 100,000 related artifacts to make the teachers better in a certain domain, you can now create what you call as your own large language model. Because you have so much data, you can custom train your own large model, give out which looks just the way you want the teachers to learn, or you want the teachers to take back information from the source. So that's
Okay.
where, and there is no end to it. You could basically start out small, iteratively keep building it.
Correct. Now, the reason I wanted to talk to you today, other than we know one another, I consider you an esteemed colleague, is because you, like me, are an executive coach, but you have your, a former technology executive. So, how does AI enter the world of coaching, or how do you use it, Mahesh? So,
How does AI enter the world of coaching? It's a very interesting question, John. It could be used once again. You could do it. John, could use it to boost your own productivity, as an example. So you are somebody who's written 16 books. It's those are there in 10 languages, John. And if you think about those, a lot of content that you've put out there, you could essentially have AI interact with so many people who are readers of your book, who are your fans, and give them answers when they need the most. And that doesn't mean you need to be staying up all night to answer questions from your around the world. You could have a bot, you could have a John bot answering all those questions in a very effective and timely manner. You could have the bot actually giving answers to questions which your fans would love and take inputs and guidance from without taking a second of your own precious time. You could also have this bot be an assistant where it's taking notes for you, it's collecting leads online, and it's even going out and seeking opportunities on your behalf. So there are many things that you could do as a coach, extend yourself, almost have a clone out there for yourself.
okay, okay, I understand that point. So let's transition from coaching to the work that you do with executives. So, how can a CEO benefit from AI? Oh.
So CEOs, first and foremost, I'll give an example of Mars, the ones who make Snickers. So they make very good candy bars, and they are known around the world. When you think about their CEO, they had a huge global plan, and one of the countries they wanted to enter was China. So when they entered China, they entered a strategic partnership with Alibaba, and Alibaba initiated a few experiments which were AI led with with Mars, in partnership with Mars. Something that Mars learned was during the same checkout session, customers who bought um, Mars or the Snickers also bought other spicy item or savory item to go with it, and that was a learning they had. Now, what that did was they took that insight and they came back with a product they tested in the Chinese market. They launched spicy Snickers. They used the Sichuan peppercorns to launch spicy Snickers, which became a hit in China to the extent where the entire goal of them getting 10% of their revenues from China was met by the launch. So that example of how AI actually led them towards an insight, which then they applied and met their goal. So what CEOs can be smart about is being clear about their goals for, because the CEO can sometimes be like, oh my gosh, I have ginormous power. And they struggle for months and years on how exactly can we use AI. Now AI has been around for more than a decade, for 15 years, but it's not democratized. Generative AI allows for AI to be democratized. That means it could be used by many people, many more people right now. So what CEOs need to do, no matter what size of you could be Fortune 500, the example that I gave you with the Mars, or you could be a small mid company. You got to step back and first be very clear, very articulate about what is your business goal, and then then partner with your CTO, with your technology advisors on how exactly will you use AI to reach that goal. But that level of clarity, from there, John, everything becomes an experiment. Everything becomes a test. And you can run a series of tests to figure out what is working and what, more importantly, what is not working. And so when I work with CEOs, I help them understand how to basically be clear about those business goals, how to be clear about their AI enabled strategy, and then break it down into what are achievable tests or experiments to be run in their environment.
Okay. Now, I can have a sort of a cocktail palette, a knowledge of what AI does, and so I can navigate. But what's very important, and this is why it's important to speak to you, because you're in the field of human behavior, helping us do better on our jobs. So, what kind of cultures do best in a world of AI? So,
Great question, John. Great question. I'll bring up an example of my client's Mark Eimer. He is the Chief Technology Officer at HMN, Hackensack Meridian Health, New Jersey, one of the largest hospital chains. At that operating a large chain, you're going to go so many transitions, transition to cloud, transition to AI. And one of the most important things when you're going through this kind of a transition is to have a culture of empathy, because this is a historic time where the leaders themselves as well as will go through upskilling or reskilling, and they have to do it fast. So the culture needs to have empathy towards its people who are actually willing to cooperate. They are willing to change. They are willing to upskill as long as they have the clarity, which means you have to have a culture of openness. You have to allow for questions to come in. You have to be able to answer them and then turn their fears into action. It's a very important step for every leader to understand that I have to really help them spell this fear and something, convert their plans into action. And the more they allow those people to do, the better. So the culture of basically leading with empathy, the culture of actually having an open environment where it's policy, those are very important. In Mark Eimer's case, he led with empathy. He sat down with several of his leaders and his team members to understand and then transition one team member at a time from fear into meaningful action towards the vision that he has set up for the organization. And that's the culture that can help uh, their teams. This is the kind of culture that can help the leaders and their teams take on transition at a time.
now, at the beginning of our conversation, you talked about your background, and you started out in helping as a coder, working in finance and banks, and as it evolved, and taking the teller from, say, face to face into more of a financial advisor using technology, using AI. So, let's take today's world. So, if I'm an employee. And let's say I'm a middle manager, not in a technology company. What should I be looking for from AI?
So if you're a middle manager, let's take a few examples. Middle managers, you could be in marketing, you could be in technology. So if you're a middle manager who's running a marketing team, you need to first identify how is it that your team can benefit through through the automation or through AI. And as an example, there are tools today which can help you write copies, marketing copies. There are tools which can help you write emails. And so, as a marketing manager, first you need to understand that are you leveraging enough of those tools? And if yes, how can you? If no, why not? And the second thing, as a marketing manager, that you try to do is make sure you are getting for the next wave of innovation, in which means as a marketing manager you will also need to upskill. You will need to get hands on with these tools yourself, see how your own output, how your own productivity can be improved, and then figure out where else in the organization can you apply your skill sets. Because if you want to transition to a different team where your subject matter expertise could be more beneficial, you could think about it. So I've seen some marketing leaders transition into the analytics and take on the analytics role because they understand how to read those marketing insights and convert them into data and then bring those data to their leaders for further action. So that's something that the mid-level managers need to figure out. Either learn AI and roll up their sleeves and become hands-on with it, or figure out how can they become 2x 3x more productive, make their team smarter by having them adopt these tools as well. And if that looks great, continue on. If not, consider transitioning into a different role in the same company where you could add more value given the subject matter expertise you've built over the years.
Okay. Now, as AI is iterating itself on and on and on, I'm going to ask you an iterative question. So You talked about, essentially doing emails, maybe ad copy, things like that, which is a creative process. But in a way, it's not breakthrough yet. So how can, or what do we see AI, can it help me think more clearly? Can it help me make better choices? What's your take on that, Mahesh?
So thinking and doing are two different things. But John, I would say that I'll take you back to the time of search engines when search engines were just starting. This is early 2000, 2000, even 2000. We were still teaching ourselves how to get comfortable asking questions to Google. So let me ask you, if you recall, 20 years ago, did you just trust whatever Google told you?
No, I don't think I did at all. No.
And how has it changed today?
Well, I want to say it's a little deeper, but given in the world of AI, which may be creating deep fakes, I don't know. But I want to say it can pull from more sources. And if I believe that source is valid, then it's a fuller picture. Does that answer your question? So,
It does. It does. So I would draw a similar parallel with AI. Sometimes the machine could be hallucinating. It can give out which you would be like, I never even went to school. Why is it saying this about me? Or the other day, we had one of our friends publish a book, and the co-author on that book was wrong. So AI is known to be hallucinating right now because in some cases, like it says, generative AI, it is generating things by itself. And while that is a superpower, unfortunately, when they are wrong, they are really wrong, and you could get in trouble. So, I don't go as far as having AI to assist me, but I would say, as far as thinking is concerned, as far as having a partner, um, it's a starting point. It's not there yet. It may be there 10 years ago, but that's when you will have licensed software. And that's where you talk about deeper domain expertise. So you could then buy a licensed software, which is specifically answering your questions about tax, questions about legal, questions about finance, and you trust it enough for you to pay them and for you to have them as a thought partner. And Intuit, where I worked a few years ago, they just launched something called Intuit Assist. Now, Intuit Assist in the next tax season will become the bot to advise people on how to file their taxes. How should they think about the new law that just came out? How should they think about saving on taxes? Things like that. Complex questions, they still can call Intuit the real person. But if they don't want to wait in line, the bot can still start to answer questions, and they can take it and apply that into the tool and see how many dollars it saved. So tell you what, these things will start to take shape over the next 3, 4, 5 years. That's when AI will see a lot of exponential growth. So once again, Intuit is a paid software. Intuit TurboTax is a software you pay for, and therefore you rely on them. So the more you have somebody who's specializing in a given domain, the better it is for you to rely on them versus just typing your question to a Bard or a GPT and expecting whatever comes is going to be precise.
well, one of the big breakthroughs in just what you said is in a specific domain, namely medicine. I think that was one of the first areas where AI was growing exponentially. So now it can give, and you use this word, suggestive. So that can help us be, by suggesting alternatives, it can challenge our thinking. So have you considered X or have you considered Y? Do you see that happening, Mahesh? So.
In a big way, John. Healthcare, education, fundraising, these are some industries which are close to my heart, and these are going to see a lot of help coming in because what is happening is, once again, if you get the specialization for a certain field, you can have huge impact. I will talk about one of the CEOs His name is Amit Kharat. Dr. Amit Kharat is the CEO of DeepTech.ai. DeepTech.ai is basically something at the intersection of radiology and AI. Now, what you have in today's day and age is you would go for an X-ray or an MRI or a scan, and you're going to wait for a few hours, if not a few days, to get a reading on what exactly that meant. that wait period is now gone thanks to deeptech.ai. You will have in seconds, and that is a huge transformational step in the healthcare, in the whole radiology industry. Because let's take the case of tuberculosis. Approximately 1.3 billion people get diagnosed with it at some point in their life, and it spreads unfortunately from person to person. So if you went back in the past, if you did the X-ray, if you did the scan, a chest scan for tuberculosis, you won't get an affirmative for a few days, and the risk is you will keep spreading in the meantime. And many people don't even get back to seeing the report; they just go for the scan and forget about it. So here's what deep tech does. Within seconds, you will know from your scan. Within seconds, like, oh yeah, you're tested positive. So right away, you're getting the prescription. You're going to wear your mask. You're going to get the treatment, and you're going to stop spreading it. So that
Oh,
kind of situation we are talking, which has now become possible because everything that the radiologist would have otherwise transcribed for you, the machine does it in real time, and the benefits are for everybody, for the patient, for the doctors, for the facility, and for humankind.
well, now I'm going to ask that $64,000 question because it all makes sense and it makes me. So if I'm a pathologist, isn't that going to harm my livelihood? And what does this enable? How can I deal with this technology? What's your perspective? So,
that that's a great question. Again, yes, it is a very important question. So just like in the 90s, 2000, the teller's job was impacted because the teller did not upskill themselves or think ahead of time. That's happened to the pathologist. They have to start to upskill themselves, figure out how they can add more value or better value to the ecosystem that they are a part of. They have to think at scale. They have to make AI their friend.
and essentially, that lesson that you just said is what all of us need to do in whatever field we're doing, because whether we like it or not, or fear it or love it, embrace it or shy away from it, it's here. Okay. So now I'm going to shift into the. This is a great conversation, and I'm so grateful to speak to you. So, as you know, Mahesh, I ask every guest a story to tell me a story about grace. What story would you like to share with us? So,
The story about grace. Well, I had my moment. I'll basically share when I was an engineer. I was an engineer at Intel, and we had a critical launch which was due, and the deadline was very important for Intel. We were working on it, was mission critical, and during that time, we were reliant on another large provider for their software to be functioning the way it should. But unfortunately, that software did not work the way we expected. We were the first beta testers, and here we are having something mission critical that we are working on. So during that time, it was um, 36 hours, John, and we hadn't had a chance to go home. We are at work nonstop, just waiting to take something live. And when the time came for the company to help us out, they couldn't quite take ownership. And at that point, I that was my in my early days, I would say, showing some grace and really. I love the title of your book, Grace Under Pressure. So that was my moment of grace under pressure, John, where I basically sat back and I told myself they perhaps either have no idea or they don't know that that we've been here on this thing for 30 hours non-stop, or perhaps it is not something which is in their power. And I myself also told my team that this is a moment where we just deal with the situation with calmness and not ruin relationships. And that was a moment where I actually sat down, offered them some beverages, explained to them the whole situation as if we are starting on this right now, and we said, how can we help? Instead of telling them please help us, we said, how can we help make software better, since we are launching this for the first time together as a group? And things started to change. The dialogue shifted, the tone shifted, and we started to go as a team the right direction.
What a great story. I love it. And because you have woven in the technical challenges of a launch and things you've been working on for a long period of time, and especially that last 36 hours. And then when it didn't quite go, you said, all right, let's address it. Let's change, showing grace. So what a wonderful story. Mahesh Thakur, it has been such a pleasure to speak to you. How can people find you?
John, it is my pleasure to be on your show. People can visit my website, maheshmthakur.com, just the way we have a show here. My first name, Mahesh, my middle initial M, and my last name, Thakur, maheshmthakur.com.
Great. Well, we will put that in the notes. And with that, my friend, we will go out. So